Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio-exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Attention! You're listening to The Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. The voice may not be what it normally is today because I was at that Pacers game last night, and according to Coach Rick Carlisle, which who can argue with this, the Pacers won because of the crowd. That's what I took from it anyway. So when I say we won last night, game number 3, if there is an MVP to be given in that crowd, it has to be someone from the Huff household. But we had a great time last night. Forgive the voice, and forgive me for talking about this for those of you who are stick-to-the-issue type folks, because that is going to happen just a little bit here today as I just decompress. I'm a little bit tired today. A little bit, the morning isn't what it normally is after last night. I can't sleep after those things. I come home, I don't think I went to bed till 2:30 or something. I'm just amped up. It was quite the experience, and that's not what we're going to talk about too much today, my friends. We'll talk about other things in the news as well, which is on the stat. By the way, if you are new to the program, welcome. Where have you been? I'm kidding. You can listen to old archives of the program at toddhuffshow.com. And if you want to see anything that we've referenced on the program, you can go to our website, go to the Stack of Stuff page, which has all of the articles and things that we will be discussing, or it's just background for things that I'm prepared to talk about on the program. So you can check it out there. If there's anything I reference and you want to look more into, that's where you'll find it. That's why I'm telling you that. That's at toddhuffshow.com, just under the Stack of Stuff. It'll say stack is actually what it says in the website navigation. That is a hat tip to the late, great Rush Limbaugh, who had a physical stack of stuff back when he started his program in 1988. We have a digital stack of stuff here on our program when we started it in 2015. So, there you go. Friends, that is, the stack of stuff will be a roadmap of the things I want to get to today. There's the aftermath of, well, not the aftermath because the stuff's still going on. Some of the fallout and some of the consequences of what's happening in Los Angeles. Some of the stuff is already spreading to other places. In fact, I didn't see it last night. Oz, did you see the protests last night? Any? No. My brother did. He came in another entrance to Gamebridge Fieldhouse. He saw people out there. What did he say? He said somebody was saying, I'm a fan of Pascal, but not of Ice or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, friends, that is, there's plenty of stuff to talk about in today's news. We'll start there. Before I get started, though, friends, you know that one of the biggest challenges for conservatives like you, like me, is finding a way to ensure that our values align with what we do, with how we live, and that includes how we invest our money. That's why I love what the team at 48 Financial is doing. Paul and his team there specialize in what he refers to as biblically responsible investing. That means they screen out companies that do not align with the biblical Christian faith and values, so that we're not, in our investments, funding things that go completely against what we believe in. Plus, they'll do the heavy lifting for you, my friends, helping align your investments with your purpose and your goals. Now, here is the best part of the program. They'll help you find out if your current investment reflect your values. So, there's so many things that mutual funds can be invested in that sometimes you don't know, and sometimes they're moving individual stocks in and out of mutual funds, and it's hard to stay on top of that. But, my friends, you can get an assessment of what you're investing in today to see if you're investing some of these crazy leftist things, including abortion. That's in some of these companies will fund Planned Parenthood and so forth. So all you have to do is visit 48financial.com. That's the number. The number's 4 and 8. 48financial.com/Todd. That's where you will go to take the assessment. 48financial.com/Todd. 48 Financial, because, friends, our money should work for our values. All right, let's get to, well, first let's talk a little bit about the game. We've got 3 kids. Our youngest is, all 3 of them love it. Love going to Pacers games. They've been Pacers fans for the past several years. I've been a Pacers fan since, probably, I remember going to the games, a couple of games maybe in the 80s. They were terrible in those days. Of course, really became a fan when Reggie Miller started putting the Pacers on the map. So, I've been a fan of the Pacers since early 1990s, so 30 plus years. Our kids have been fans, and they love going. Our youngest is probably the biggest Pacers fan. She's our basketball player out of the mix. The other 2 like it as well. In fact, our oldest daughter, our middle child, is thinking of playing this year. She's not played for a while, but she's gotten a lot better. Anyway, so we go to the game on occasion. We go to a handful of games every year. We went last night, and of course, we have to get there. I've learned that, if you get there early, I'm talking when the gates open early, you can go down. They'll let the kids get autographs, meet the players as they're coming in and out of the tunnel. That area is actually open, Section 2 of the Pacers game. If you get there, they'll let you down there unless there's too many people, and you can try to get autographs. So we let our kids go down there. The gates opened 90 minutes before the game last night. So the tip was 8:30. We were in the stadium at 7. That's when the gates opened. We were in line. We were in line because it was a playoff game. I was in line about an hour before that thing opened. So it was a long night for the Pacers fans, the Huff family in particular, but we loved it. And I got to tell you, that environment was absolutely electric. In fact, I've got my t-shirt. They gave us t-shirts last night, and I like this t-shirt. It says, "But this is Indiana, Finals 2025." And that's a reference to the importance of basketball in the state of Indiana. Now, some people take it too far and say that basketball is our religion and silly stuff like that. Basketball is important in Indiana. I suppose to some people it could be their religion. We worship, as I've said on this program before, got this from the very talented and wise Cliff Nechtel. But worship is considering something ultimately worthy. So someone could worship basketball or a particular basketball player, I guess. That would be misplacing the source, misplacing where our worship should be directed at. Our worship should be directed to our Creator, not to the things He's created. We can enjoy those things. We can thank Him for those things. We can appreciate those things. We can even love those things. But we shouldn't be worshiping those things. But anyway, I wouldn't say that we worship basketball, although some people do. But basketball is special in the state of Indiana. In fact, last night, sitting courtside, was Reggie Miller, who's not a native of Indiana, but he was basically an adopted Hoosier. He lived here, of course, whenever he was a Pacer back in the late 80s, the 90s, and early 2000s. Still a legend. I mean, in fact, I think Reggie kind of teared up when they introduced him. He's an emotional guy. I don't know how anybody can't like Reggie Miller. Maybe Knicks fans, I understand, because of how he, gave them the choke sign back in the day. But Reggie's a all-around good dude. And he's a class act. And he was honored last night. Sitting directly next to him was Oscar Robertson, who is a phenomenal basketball player in his own right, historic basketball player, with what he had to deal with regarding racism in basketball back in his time of playing. He was from a high school in Indianapolis called Crispus Attucks. Oscar Robertson went on to be one of the best basketball players in the history of the NBA. In fact, if you look at some of his statistics, I mean, the guy was a walking triple-double. I know the game was different back then. Let me say a word about that too. I listen, especially today, to some of these younger folks who think that the best basketball players who have ever walked the face of the planet are all living or all playing today. Because they go back and they look at tapes of Wilt Chamberlain or whoever, even players in the 90s like Jordan or Bird or Magic, and they look at that and they say, look, these guys don't have the skill set that they have today. These guys would get cooked out there. Well, let me tell you a couple things. Number one, the reason that basketball development is what it is today, the reason the NBA is at the top of the mountain right now, the reason it is not just a nationally popular sport, but a worldwide sport that's popular around the world, drawing players from around the world. Victor Wembanyama. Heck, the Pacers have Pascal Siakam. We have Canadians, Andrew Nembhard and Benedict Mathurin. We've not, but the NBA has had NBA players from Argentina and Spain and China. And you start to list countries and you're going to forget countries. It's just the way that it is. There's been a lot of countries. Nikola Jokic is from Serbia. Luka's from, where's Luka from? Slovenia? Yeah, he's from where Melania's from. So some of the best basketball players in the world from France. Rudy Gobert. And there's lots of players from lots of countries. The sport has gotten popular around the world because of players like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and Michael Jordan and the Dream Team of 1992. So number one, they set the foundation. And of course the sport should evolve. Of course players should get better. It became so popular, in fact, because of players like Magic and Bird and Michael Jordan, that we have people who are professionals at coaching and training and teaching basketball skills, not just here, but again, around the world. There's AAU. I don't know what they call it now, but when I was a kid, there were the AAU circle, the travel basketball circuit, where they have, you could criticize the American version of AAU, but the idea is to bring the kids, give the kids a chance to compete. The ones who are the most talented and skilled will rise to the top. All of that stuff happens because of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, and of course Michael Jordan and others. I'm just picturing these three because I'm saying these three. I'm actually looking at a picture and it's got those three guys on it. So, in fact, last night someone tweeted, they posted a picture of Magic, Bird, and Jordan on the Dream Team, and they put that picture into their post on X, and they said, "Thank God the starters are checking out." And then it says T.J. McConnell, Obi Toppin, and Ben Mathurin. It has a picture of these guys saying that the bench was the equivalent to Magic, Bird, and Johnson. Magic, Bird, and Jordan. Of course, that's a little bit of a exaggeration, but they played phenomenally well last night. Anyway, but if Magic, Bird, and Jordan had the conditioning programs, the lifting programs, the skills programs from the time they were kids until the time that they played in the NBA, those guys, their games would reflect what we see people doing today. And as I suspect, if we had a way to travel back into time and to move Bird and Magic and Jordan and others into this era, those guys would have dominated the game today. It would have looked different. Their skill set would be better. They would be in, I don't know, I'm not criticizing their shape, but Jordan was in phenomenal shape. Bird and Magic would have definitely been in better shape. They would be better skilled. Bird would probably be hitting half quarters in the middle of the game today. The game was, in fact, different back then. But the guys, heck, a lot of these guys, not in the 80s, but before this, I mean, they weren't making mega millions of dollars, right? I mean, Magic Johnson, there's stories of some of these guys who kind of were the forerunners to some of these massive contracts. And then, of course, Jordan led us to the endorsement contracts, was at least one of the first to really, really capitalize on that. So it's a different world. Different era, different game. These guys, their games would have evolved if they were playing today, and they, I suspect, would have been better, much better, and would also be the cream of the crop today, would still be solidified as one of the best those three guys, top 10 players of all time, easily. Anyway, so, but as I think back to the journey of being a Pacers fan in general, there's been some tough years, there's been some years where they've been terrible. In fact, just I think 3 years ago, the Pacers won only 25 games, and here they are, 2 games away from winning the NBA championship, the Larry O'Brien Trophy, which I had to ask my daughter last night what that was even called. I couldn't remember the name of the trophy. Anyway, the place was rocking. The environment was fantastic. After the game, Coach Rick Carlisle for the Pacers was talking about the crowd, and I took from that we won the game for them. It was an incredible environment, a great game. The Thunder's a great team too. This is going to be a good series. This is by no stretch of the imagination over, but I had a great time cheering on the Pacers. You know, looking at some of the legends that were there, Reggie Miller, Oscar Robertson, and plenty others. I saw Al Harrington. Oz pointed out to me, Al Harrington, who played for the Pacers, in the 90s, maybe into the early 2000s, he had a Shea t-shirt on, big old picture of Shea at the stadium last night, at the field house, I should say. So there were other Pacers there. It was just an incredible environment. I've been to lots of games. I don't think I've been to one louder, and if you hear my voice that doesn't sound quite up to par today, it's because of the screaming that was happening that yours truly was participating in last night. So congratulations, Pacers. Now, you haven't accomplished anything yet. You've won 2 games. You're halfway there to the championship. But we're certainly proud here in Indianapolis to watch you compete and to bounce back from a tough loss where, candidly, you got your rear ends kicked in Game 2. But the Pacers looked really good last night. All right, so that's all I'm going to say about it today. And I'll say this. If the Pacers win again, well, actually, Game 4 is tomorrow night. So, I don't know. You probably won't hear me talk about Game 4. Maybe I'll talk about it Monday. And then Game 5, I think, is Monday. So, hopefully the Pacers can be playing to close it out then. But who knows? It could be tied 2-2 going back to Oklahoma City. But that's all I'm going to say about it for now. Just you got a couple more weeks of this where I could be talking about the Pacers at least for a moment. All right. Enough of that, my friends. If you're a salesperson, if you're in sales, let me ask you a question. How would your life change if you improved your sales? What if you doubled your sales? Think about that for just a second. More deals, bigger commissions, less stress is exactly what Matt Easton and Easton University can help you achieve. Matt's system is designed to transform your sales career, and he'll even personally jump on a phone call with you to help you get started with the process, my friends. This isn't just a training program. It's a proven path to success. But you have to take the first step. ToddHuffShow.com/Easton is where you go to sign up to become a student. When you do that through the website, you'll get that bonus phone call from Matt, the welcome call to get you started, get you plugged in, help you hit the ground running with the system. ToddHuffShow.com/Easton. Do not let another day, do not let another opportunity slip through your hands, my friends. Your future in sales starts today. Starts today. You got to take the first step. ToddHuffShow.com/Easton is how you do that. All right. All of that being said, let's now shift our attention to the news of the day, which, of course, there is a lot of. I want to start with something I don't want to spend a lot of time on. It works in perfectly, I think, with what the time I have remaining in this first segment. This is New York Post. Headline here, Donald Trump responds to Elon Musk's late night apology after ugly public feud. You'll notice, or you'll remember, last week we spent some time talking about Trump versus Elon. It got ugly. Elon saying that Donald Trump was in the Epstein files, insinuating or seeming to suggest, at least from my interpretation and my opinion, that Trump was one of Epstein's clients. That was seemingly what Elon Musk was insinuating. That's what I think the average person would have at least wondered. Is that what he's trying to suggest here? Elon has since deleted a lot of tweets. I think that one is one that he did delete. And he's later on apologized. He's apologized. He's apologized. This is what Trump told the New York Post. Well, let me read her headline, or excuse me, going to the article. President Trump is feeling good about Elon Musk's apology after the former first buddy admitted late Tuesday he had gone too far in his personal attacks on the commander-in-chief. So he apologized. He said, hey, I've taken this too far. Trump said to the Post, I thought it was very nice that he did that. The president told the Post in a brief phone conversation Wednesday morning, but didn't say whether he was willing to let bygones be bygones with the Tesla and SpaceX CEO. Musk, 53, went off on Trump in a series of social media messages this past Thursday, at one point claiming the Republican would not have won the election in 2024 without his help, and suggesting the president was responsible for preventing the release of files of convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein due to his past association with the late financier. I regret some of my posts about President Trump last week. They went too far, Musk wrote Tuesday, after previously deleting his post about the Epstein files. All right, so, that's good news. We'll see where this happens. We'll see if they can put water under the bridge completely. I don't know why it had to get that nasty and ugly. It did. Nothing we can do about it now, but Musk has apologized. Trump seems to be moving on. I've got to move on to the break, my friends. Sit tight. Back here in just a minute.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio-exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Host. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethost.com/terms.
Welcome back, my friends. Still struggling through the morning here as I was up at that Pacers game last night, up until 2-something, and then the morning alarm came a little quickly. Not complaining, just telling you I'm not clicking on all cylinders as much as I normally am. And on top of that, you may or may not notice, I don't know if you can tell, if you're a listener, a regular listener, maybe you can. I don't know. Oz, can you tell my voice is not? Oz can tell. Oz can tell. So you might be able to tell as well. I can't. I can tell. I can't tell if you can tell. That's what I don't know. But the voice is not working as it should. And it's one of those programs where I've got to spend a lot of effort and time focused on making sure that I am projecting my voice well enough so that you can hear me consistently on this program. So that's what happens when you go to Game 3 of the Pacers Thunder. All right, so headline here. Listen to this. FoxNews.com, AOC, good old AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez downplays LA riots as mere teens throwing rocks, pins blame on, of course, no one other than Donald Trump. Ocasio-Cortez said that violent ICE raids sparked the chaos. This is written by Michael Dorgan. Fox News published yesterday afternoon. Squad Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat from the state of New York, downplayed the recent riots in Los Angeles, attributing the chaos to unruly teens, not violent anarchists, and blaming President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown for the arrest. You may have heard me mention when I was talking about the Pacers in the last segment that there were ICE protesters, or whatever you want to call them, in Indianapolis last night. By the way, in 2 days, this is coming to a city or town near the vast majority of you. NoKings.org is the website that you can go and take a look at. And you'll see dots all across this country on the map showing you where some of these rallies, quote-unquote rallies, are scheduled to take place. And they're scheduled at a place near you, more than likely. There's places of the country where there were not many of these scheduled, but I would have to tell you that most of the country is kind of riddled with these protests, and they're going to be happening on the 14th, which is Saturday, right? Saturday. I know near me, I referenced this maybe yesterday. Let me find the map here real quick. This stupid website. Attend, where was it? There's a map somewhere. Here it is. Okay. So I'm going to back out of this. Why is it showing me New Mexico and Arizona? All right. Where are we here? Indiana. There's one in Indianapolis, of course. There's one in, I believe that's Greencastle. Yep. Greencastle on Saturday. There's one in Nashville, Bloomington. That's not surprising. I just assumed that they're set up, these folks, these radicals have set up shop in Bloomington. That's what I've assumed. Professors and some of these radical students at Indiana University. There's one in Nashville, Indiana. There's one in Columbus. There's one in Terre Haute. There's one in Pendleton on the northeast side. In Anderson. Well, I'll keep my comments to myself there. Richmond, Indiana. Out near my uncle. Here's one in Connorsville. That is where my uncle resides. There's one in Franklin County. I don't know why it doesn't have a town name. There's one in Oldenburg. Never even heard of Oldenburg. Greensburg. Madison. Just to give you an idea. I mean, these are scattered all over the country. I mean, there's a lot of them. You have to go out to, like, Nebraska. There doesn't appear to be many. There doesn't appear to be many in North Dakota. Not surprising. There's not many people out there. Heck, you get even into Montana. There's a lot in Montana. There's one in Sandpoint. Oh, that's Idaho, across the border. Eureka. I mean, it's all over the country. These are near you is the bottom line. These are radicals who are, well, that are going to, listen, if they want to protest, that's one thing. Protest, they have the right to do it. They don't have the right to do what they've been doing in Los Angeles. In spite of what AOC says here, what does AOC say? She says that these are not violent anarchists. She says that the chaos is due to unruly teens. This is a bunch of teenagers out there that are just picking up rocks and throwing them. What's the big deal? According to AOC. In fact, she says Donald Trump's immigration crackdown is what is to blame for the unrest. But how... you know how dangerous this is? You know how dangerous it is to tell your constituents or to tell people in your movement that they are justified to behave in any way that they deem appropriate, even if that means literally creating riots and looting places and destroying cop cars. I've seen estimates on how much they say it's going to cost to deploy the National Guard and the Marines to Los Angeles. What I haven't seen are estimates of how much it's cost when they've set the city on fire. What I haven't seen are estimates showing what it's going to cost the city to replace equipment that's been destroyed by the looters in the case of the buildings they've looted, but also the behavior of the rioters, which of course the looters and the rioters are the same people. But what did it cost for the police cars that they've destroyed? What's going to happen to their insurance policy, the price of that? What's going to happen? I mean, what's the charge for bringing in additional manpower to try to, prevent more violence? What's the damage to personal property? What's the cost of that? The left is only concerned with the cost of anything when they can somehow use it to advance their agenda. They don't look at this objectively and say, man, probably shouldn't be spending a lot of money on defending a city from people who are clearly breaking the law. Probably should think about A, how to prevent this from happening, B, once it does happen, to stop it as quickly as possible so that we reduce the amount of injuries, reduce the amount of violence and all that sort of stuff. But no, instead they defend it. AOC saying that it's just a bunch of unruly teens throwing rocks. Ocasio-Cortez took to the social media platform Blue Sky on Tuesday and said Democrats don't need to, quote, answer for every teen who throws a rock. Come on, AOC, get serious. And that her party was falling into a Republican trap by trying to explain why parts of the sanctuary city had gone up in flames. That's the purpose of today's Todd Talk, is to explain exactly why sanctuary city policies have led us to this point. I did this yesterday on the program. I won't repeat myself today. I will give a quick synopsis, which again is in the Todd Talk. Todd Talk, again, are 60-second daily, features, I think is the technical name. I post those to our website. We share them on social media. They air on other radio stations as well. And the purpose of today's Todd Talk was to kind of explain this. And the purpose of a chunk of yesterday's program was to explain how sanctuary city policies lead to this chaos, which I'm not going to be able to get to this segment as I look at the clock. That's what we'll do on the other side of the break. I'll explain that so that it makes sense, and then we'll finish up this article of this stupidity that's coming here from the radical left, where the left is blaming Trump for causing the chaos by showing up to protect the city. The left wants you to believe that is an incendiary sort of action that causes people to go out of their minds and throw temper tantrums and burn things to the ground and throw rocks at police, law enforcement, and they loot. That's apparently what we're supposed to believe. No interest whatsoever from the left in personal responsibility. Friends, you know, you heard me say I was up last night, so you know that there's not a whole lot more important than a good night's sleep. It's where we recharge our batteries to fight the battles of the day, whatever that might mean, whether that's working, running a business, taking care of the family, teaching kids in school, running a company, running a school, whatever the case may be, my friends, just working hard and, of course, standing up for what's right in this great country. That's why I love My Pillow. My Pillow couldn't make my sleep hours longer, but they can make my sleep hours better. And it certainly did that, allowing me to fall asleep quickly by helping with the pillow to get my neck in that perfect position. I've got a big head, broad shoulders, and I'm a side sleeper. It's a recipe for a neck that can be in a bind in the morning. My Pillow helps me prevent that. They've got other products too, like luxurious towels, unbelievably comfortable slippers, which Oz has on, fantastic sheets, a whole lot more. MyPillow.com is where you go. Promo code Todd's going to get you discounts, my friend. MyPillow.com, promo code Todd. Time out here on my end, my friends. Back here in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. AOC wants you to believe that Democrats don't have anything to say, anything to contribute to the conversation of the riots in Los Angeles because they didn't cause them and they don't have to answer for every teenager who decides to pick up a rock and throw it. That's what she wants you to believe is happening. She doesn't want to have to answer for sanctuary policies, but I'm going to summarize really quickly, as I did in the Todd Talk and a portion of the program yesterday, why sanctuary policies are to blame here. Sanctuary policies prevent law enforcement, local law enforcement, from cooperating with ICE. So when you detain somebody and you're a member of the Los Angeles Police Department, if ICE says, hey, we got word that you've detained this person, this is a person we've been looking for, that we believe that they need to be deported, that they're here illegally, instead of saying, hey, no problem, come in and pick them up tomorrow at noon, I don't even know if they answer the phone. The caller ID says ICE, they might just send it to voicemail. I don't know. But they don't do anything about it, and they just release the person. And so ICE's job is to enforce federal law. Federal law says if you're here illegally that you can and should be deported. And so ICE says, okay, well, the law enforcement there are not cooperating with us because of the leadership. We're not to blame the individual officers. This is their policy. Their hands are tied. They could lose their jobs if they don't do this. And it's not illegal. It's stupid. It doesn't accomplish anything. The only thing it accomplishes is chaos, pandemonium, and of course the release of illegal aliens onto the streets of this country. And so they release them. The only way for ICE to get them is to go get them on their own because they've learned that these sanctuary cities are not going to help them whatsoever. And so now they have to send teams of ICE agents to do raids in these cities to find these people who are dangerous, who are a menace, a threat to society. And so then they show up on the streets. I'm then supposed to believe because the people of the city of Los Angeles see an ICE agent conducting a raid somewhere, that they're infuriated at this. They're infuriated that people who are here illegally are going to have to face the consequence of what it means to deal with the fulfillment of the law, the carrying out of the law, which is, of course, that they can be detained and deported. I'm supposed to believe that regular people see this and are infuriated that the law is being enforced and that they have no choice but to start looting and setting things on fire, calling up their teenage friends to tell them to throw some rocks because that's who AOC says is throwing the rocks. She says these aren't anarchists, these aren't violent protesters, these are just kids. You may have seen Nancy Pelosi or someone else maybe on a news report people just are they're curious. They want to see a burning car. Those are the people who are downtown in Los Angeles, wherever these these not rallies and protests at that point. They're violent riots at that point. They're going to show up and they just want to see what's happening, right? They're mostly peaceable. They're just, some kids throwing some rocks around, which, again, they try to make these things sound so benign. If you throw a rock at a police officer, that's a different thing than going down to your local park, finding a creek and skipping rocks. It's not what's happening here. This is intentional. These people are angry. These people are violent. These people are politically on the left. They're rabid, radical leftists. And Josh Hawley has recently opened up, or beginning the process of opening up, an investigation to see if and who is funding this. I know many of you think this is absolutely being funded. That certainly could be the case. Some of you believe this is just a grassroots uprising and so forth. I think certainly some people have been stirred up to show up at these things, the peaceful protests anyway, who may be grassroots. But there's certainly a lot of organization here. We can't deny that. I've got a website from nokings.org. Where does that funding come from? It's a group of people that are trying to protect their illegal immigrant friends and family and so forth. I mean, is that where they're raising the money? Is it coming from Soros? Is it coming from elsewhere? Is it coming from Act Blue, one of the big fundraising arms for the Democrat Party? Josh Hawley says we should get to the bottom of this. I agree with that, by the way. AOC doesn't seem to understand the problem because it's just a bunch of teenagers throwing rocks. So she blamed Trump, the article says here, which we know, for the chaotic scenes that have resulted in property being burned and rocks and Molotov cocktails thrown at law enforcement as some agitators waved Mexican flags. The ugly scenes that kicked off on Friday prompted Trump to deploy the National Guard, you know this, and the U.S. Marines. It is 100% carrying water for the opposition to participate in this collective delusion, AOC writes, that Democrats, for some reason, need to answer for every teen who throws a rock rather than hold the Trump administration accountable for intentionally creating chaos and breaking the law to stoke violence. They are in charge. So first of all, they are not in charge of Los Angeles. That's part of what the issue has been, because the local leaders did not want to bring in the National Guard. They did not want to secure the city. They were content with watching the city burn to the ground, AOC. They're not completely in charge. They're in charge federally. That's part of what this is about. I'm out of time, though. Got to run. SDG.